Okay, so maybe I didn't finish the Who's the Best Player in the World series, alright? You caught me. Didn't happen. But who really cares? The reason that series ended up becoming a thing was I was genuinely unsure of who was the best player in the NBA, and even though I am making this video, I'm still far from sure on my pick. But as I've seen this season play out, I am finding it harder and harder to deny something that I kind of already believed in my heart, but just didn't really want to say and really wasn't all that confident in. Now's the time to say it. If I am being completely honest, if you put a gun to my head, which I don't know why you're putting a gun to my head over who's the best player in basketball, but I guess that's how some of you guys are. If you put a gun to my head, I am saying that Stephen Curry is the best player in basketball. Let me tell you why. Before I continue on with this video, about half of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you're fond of that 50%, then please subscribe. Also drop a like, it makes a huge difference. I'm going to be uploading 6 days a week in December with the goal of hitting 200K by the year. I'm about 9.5K behind on that goal, so if you could subscribe, it would be much appreciated, especially if you end up enjoying this video. And then one big thing I have to promote real quick. The most recent video uploaded on this channel, after this one obviously, is the most recent deep dive that I've done, and it's been by far the worst performing deep dive that I have done, so if you could go give that a watch, it would be much appreciated. It's still doing well, it's a 2 out of 10, but by the standard of deep dives, which I hope to be my most viewed videos, and they typically are, it's done by comparison to the other ones. So if you go give that a watch and drop a like on that video, I would really appreciate it. I think it's my third best video, and it is also something that's kind of important, so go give it a watch. All right, I'll be honest from the get-go. I do not have any particularly unique reasons for believing why Steph Curry is the best player in the world. In fact, if you've already heard all the arguments in Steph's case, you probably don't need to watch this video because I'm just going to kind of say them again. But I still feel the way that I do when I want to explain why. It's just those explanations are not anything you haven't heard before if you are in this conversation. Also, as you can tell from the jersey hanging up, Steph Curry is my second favorite player of all time. So if you want to take everything that I say here with a grain of salt, because I do have some bias towards him, then you can go ahead and do that. Though I truly believe that, bias aside, that Steph is the best player in the world, you have a good, fair reason to, not take my opinion that seriously as a result of how much I love the man. But as for why I think Steph Curry is the best player in the world, well, I guess we should start with the even more controversial take that I believe, which is that Steph Curry is the greatest offensive player the league has ever seen, and by extension, the best offensive player in basketball right now. Steph's impact on the offensive end due to his gravity is just unmatched by any player in league history, including today's league. That is not to say that Steph is the only player with scoring gravity, as I've seen some people suggest, or some people argue against Steph when people think that his gravity is overblown, because it does happen with other superstar level players, but he both has the most gravity and most properly takes advantage of it. The whole Warriors system of beautiful basketball that we've come to know and love / hate over the past couple of years, outside of last season when it kind of disappeared, it was really all built around the gravity of Steph Curry. The system was not a system. It was, hey, we have Steph Curry, here's what we can get out of that. But I think what makes Steph such a crazy, crazy offensive talent is, I can say the gravity thing, and that's the first thing, the thing that stands out the most to me. And then the second thing that I say is that he can average 30 points per game on 10% better than league average true shooting. That's the second thing with Steph. That's what comes in second place for what makes him so crazy offensively, is that he can average 30 on 67% true shooting. That's wild. I say gravity and then that. It's like, oh yeah, I suppose he can average 30 on crazy efficiency. That's also there. Comparing him to guys like Kevin Durant and Giannis, sure, as one-on-one scorers, KD takes the cake there. Giannis is obviously way more dominant of an inside scorer, but as a full offensive package, I'm taking Steph over both of those guys any day. I'd also argue that if you can average the same amount or more points per game on mildly better efficiency, do I really care that KD has a better mid-range pull-up when it's that close production and efficiency-wise? Ultimately, it's just splitting hairs. Nikola Jokic is honestly the only player that I would say comes close to Steph in terms of overall offensive impact in today's game. And yes, that is me essentially saying that Jokic is the second best offensive player in basketball. So this video is just chock full of hot takes that's going to get me a garbage comment section. But here we are. Then we get to the butt of the video, which is the reason that I have hesitance on Steph Curry actually being the best player in the world. But it's the thing that I was hesitant about being less hesitant about lately that has made me finally put him at number 1. You'll see what I mean. When looking at the top 10 players in the league, Steph is among the worst defenders in that group. And while a lot of Steph fans would tell you that his defensive weaknesses are overblown, and I would be inclined to agree depending on the degree of which it is being overblown, because that can be a case-by-case basis. Some act like he's an okay defender, which is true, and then some act like he's the worst ever, which is just not. However, at the same time, the extent of his flaws on the defensive end have been very well shielded by the Warriors system of great defenders, and that's kind of made it to where he's always a neutral defender because he's surrounded by so many good defenders who also happen to know how to put him in the right places to succeed. But when it comes to overall defensive capability on an individual basis, Stephen Curry's defensive talent leaves room to be desired, generally speaking. But that said, this year, as shocking as it is to say something like this at this point in his career, it appears as though Stephen Curry has taken a leap on the defensive end. I can't really believe it either. Draymond recently called Steph one of the best defenders on the team, and while Draymond is of course very susceptible to some bias here, at the same time, that guy knows defense better than most people, so I wouldn't take it entirely with a grain of salt. Now, where the controversy with the claims of Steph's defensive improvement come is with a lot of it coming from, discourse-wise, coming from defensive rating, which is a complicated stat that causes lots of arguments. Defensive rating would suggest that Steph is one of the best defensive guards in the game, if not the best. But a lot of people rightfully took issue with the claims that were being based on this because defensive rating is not inherently an individual stat, but well, also not exactly, like it is and it isn't. Especially by comparison to other players on other teams, it's really not. But you can look at it individually when looking at a team alone. And with that, over the time, with multiple lineups, multiple teams, you're eventually going to see who the better defenders are in defensive rating within the team. And throughout the years, Steph Curry has been middle of the pack to lower tier on the Warriors. This year, he is towards the top. And here we are 20 games in, and Steph is doing extremely well. So while Steph will not top a lot of the names in this conversation for best in the league defensively, he is not a bad defender as I previously thought him to be. And his leap this year, which is insane for a 33-year-old to make, by the way, was just that little bit of a nudge that I needed to make me more confident in him being the best player in the world. It really comes down to a simple question. Say you're building a team and you have 1 year to win a championship and you just have like a fantasy draft type scenario. If you can make one pick to build a championship team in 1 year, what's your first pick? It's gonna be Steph Curry for me every time. I said it's a simple question and then put like 5 parameters in it, but you get my point. If I'm trying to build a championship team right now, Steph Curry is my number 1 pick to build that team around. And to me, that pretty much just makes you the best player in the world. So you can feel free to disagree. As I have said multiple times in the best player in the world series, I honestly believe that it's really close with a lot of people. I have mentioned James Harden in that conversation. He's definitely not in it right now, nor is Luka Doncic, as he has been pretty bad this year as well. But just in general, there's probably like now 6 names who I think have a real claim to the title of best in the league, and you're just splitting hairs when you're actually making a pick, and that's exactly what this video is. So yeah, if you think someone else is the best player in the league, I'm not really going to argue with you. unless it's not among those 6 names. So yeah, shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.